was actually happy when Callie suggested we research a doctor. Finally, I thought, this fucking science experiment will come to an end. We'll find a good doctor, he'll find out what's wrong with her shit and fix it. So the next port we came into, I found an internet kiosk and logged in. Username, C. Ingram. Password, RoboClay5000. They made me use caps and numbers, and it had to be over 10 characters long, so that's what I picked. It was easy to remember. Anyway, I logged in and went to Google and searched for fertility specialists best. And guess what name came up first? Dr. Musawara, MD. In fact, his was the first 9 names to come up. Either Dr. Wara was in bed with Google, or fertility specialists weren't in high demand. You know, what with the rapture and all. Dr. Wara agreed to meet Callie and me in upstate East New York, which had become an island chain. There weren't just 5 boroughs anymore. Every separate island had become a borough. And all of New York State and most of the surrounding East Coast states were island chains. One of the islands belonged to Dr. Wara. As it turned out, Dr. Wara was just about the only fertility specialist in New York. He had high-class references and a healthy business and the most comprehensive website I'd ever navigated. According to the About Us section, Dr. Wara had pioneered best practices in the field ever since its downward spiral had begun 7 years earlier, when Americans had decided that bringing new life into a dying world was irresponsible. And to think, for so long, Callie had thought no one shared her opinions. She was just ahead of the curve. Ah, there you are, my old friend, I smile. I've just made visual contact with Grover. Excuse me, Robert says. Oh, sorry, I say. I lift the salad bowl, which has become sweaty on my head. My long, old man's hair rises with it, sticking to the insides and then coming away, all frazzled and crazy. Not strong enough to stand up, but not weak enough to fall. The story of my life. Did you just refer to Grover as your old friend? Robert asks me. And I smile, harder this time, all the way until my dried old lips crack at the corners and bleed. Yeah, I mean, in Antarctica, in the beginning, I couldn't wait to see Grover. I scratched my hairless chin, remembering how badly I'd wanted to grow a beard while growing up, and then how annoying it was to have to shave every morning. And now how it sucks to not even have any stubble. It wasn't until much later that he and I became enemies. Do you mean after you reunited with Callie Davidson? Grover was your enemy then? I stare at the tiny, grayish red dot that will very soon destroy the world. No, I say. When I got Callie back, Grover became... I shrug, pulling the helmet back on my head, saying, Grover became more of a technicality. When the U.S. Coast Guard met the Pirate Queen II at the international boundary line, I expected a fight. Instead, 2 U.S. dignitaries came aboard, bearing papers that offered Captain Mustarian amnesty for any crimes, past or future, so long as he agreed to join the U.S. in its efforts to tackle piracy. Back in the olden days of true piracy, Captain Mustarian told me, this had been known as being a privateer. The only difference between pirates and privateers was that pirates were considered outlaws by all nations, while privateers had immunity from the country that commissioned them. Privateers were considered POWs if they were caught by other countries. Privateers were sometimes known as gentlemen pirates. In essence, they could continue to conduct pirate-like behavior, so long as it was only against pirates who weren't on their team. And Captain Mustarian was already doing this against what he would have called modern pirates. And after he dropped us off in New York, his plan was to continue doing that. I guess the only difference would have been if he signed up with those dignitaries, he'd basically be working for the U.S. Captain Mustarian opened fire on the U.S. Coast Guard almost immediately. As the U.S. Coast Guard sped away, anti-aircraft guns pattering the waves behind them, Captain Mustarian laughed and laughed. He helped Callie and me and the shaken dignitaries aboard a landing vessel that would take us the rest of the way to Manhattan Sound. We tried to explain to the dignitaries that this was just Captain Mustarian's way of, accepting their offer. We said, he's Australian. I only saw Captain Mustarian one more time again in person, but from what I understand, he did go on to liberate Florida and the surrounding areas in the process becoming some sort of national hero in Cuba. Years later, I'd see a teenager wearing a Che Guevara shirt, and I'd have to do a double take because holy shit, that wasn't Che Guevara, that was Captain Mustarian, liberator of the South Seas, or butcher of the Bahamas, depending on who you ask. Callie and I got a room at the Pavel Chernikov Marriott Resort, New York City Sound. The whole place was crawling with scuba divers and treasure hunters. We had an appointment to see Dr. Wara the next day. I thought it was good of him to see us on such short notice. As we got ready for bed, I realized that I'd forgotten my contact lens case on the Pirate Queen too. And since I'd already gotten undressed, I wasn't about to go down and buy a new contact case from the lobby shop. So I filled 2 minibar glasses with an inch of multi-purpose saline solution and deposited 1 contact lens into each glass. Then, in the middle of the night, I woke up thirsty. Blind and half asleep, I staggered into the bathroom, held a minibar glass under the faucet, filled it up with water, and drank my left contact lens. Shit. Not a second after the rim of the glass had left my lips, I realized what I'd done. But what could I do? I'd have to wear the one lens, otherwise I'd be totally blind. I didn't have any spare lenses. The only comforting thought was that I'd acquired a few pills. Not enough to sustain my addiction, but enough so I wouldn't have to worry about that missing contact lens headache. Can you believe I was more worried about a missing contact lens than I was about drug withdrawal? That's how bad it is to try and function with only one eye. When I finally dozed off, I kept having that annoying dream where you're doing whatever it is you're going to do in the morning, getting ready and going out and starting your day. My dreams went as far as meeting Dr. Wara and me explaining the life of a pirate over and over and over and over again, only to wake up and realize I still had to do all that stuff. I had that same dream, or some variation of it, all night long. Oh, and in some of them, I was wearing a patch.